Good evening. I'm going to call the Development Review Board meeting for November 13th to order. Roll call for members. All members present except John Bauer. Okay, we'll start things off. We're going to open the recessed public hearing for Shaw's Supermarket. Based off of some communications with the Zoning and Planning Department, they are finalizing plans and will be here in person next month. I make a motion to recess Shaw's Supermarket until the December meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Next on the agenda, we're going to open the recessed public hearing for Del Tufo Real Estate 80 Brew. Is anyone here to speak on behalf of the applicant today? Okay. Did you guys all get sworn in last time or previous time? Okay, so as long as you've been sworn in at least once. Okay, so tell us, let's hear an update on your project. And you're going to have to come up to the microphone. And please state your name first. Thank you.
David Del Tufo. We're here tonight to ask if you'd lift the stipulation of soundproofing to our permit. We believe it's a in-house issue, and we have been working on that soundproofing issue in forms of a working group within the mill. Back to December of last year, it came up for soundproofing reasons, and since then I've met with one of our neighbors upstairs and his soundproofing expert who specializes in mill buildings, and trying to work on a solution with him. I brought him back in to revisit the site and to look at the ceiling complete instead of just under one of the neighbors who was complaining about the noise. So just to show, all this is just to show that we've been actively working on a solution. The mill HOA hired a engineer consultant. Doesn't install, but he's a consultant that would come in and analyze the different sounds by testing with speakers and so on in the our bar and taking readings throughout the mill. And he was working on ideas for us for soundproofing. We're still working with RSG, I believe, to get a final solution to the sound issue. And so we were supposed to meet in July 17th. So he sent an email after, obviously, the flood and said, you know, geez, I'm so sorry, and we'll have to put this off. At that point, we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to rebuild the bar. So then in, I believe, September, we met again and went over some of his ideas. Then he went back, which I thought were great, but went back, he was going to do more analyzing to those, and we're still waiting for those results. So, and also in the meantime, to answer, to solve some of the problems in the parking lot with noise in the parking lot, we put no loitering signs, so no one's allowed to stand outside. They all have to stand at the bottom of the stairs, or to solve any kind of issues out in the parking lot, which was very successful. We had hired a bouncer also to help with that. There were some complaints about litter in the parking lot. So we've just been cleaning the parking lot after we shut down, and just kind of notice we collect all the things that we pick up, and I'd say 95% of the debris in the parking lot are items that we don't sell. But We've also lowered our speakers for music, radio. They were up towards the ceiling. We also lowered them down and put soundproofing around those speakers, which was suggested by one of the soundproofing estimates that we got. Let's see, what else did we do? The bouncer. So we're...
The lights?
Oh, right. So just to turn off the lights on the sign out front so people see that we're not open and more apt to come down and so on. So basically, just kind of going through a timeline of what's been happening, and we want to soundproof our ceiling. We'd rather not have people complaining and having to worry about our patrons maybe being too loud to tell them to keep it down. So, you know, it's in our interest as well. But with the flood, you know, we're borrowing money just to rebuild. We've only been open for a year and a half or so, and that's been a struggle enough just to be able to reopen. We're even downscaling some of the items that we had in the bar, like a brick veneer. We're not doing that. Instead of a hardwood floor, we're going to do a vinyl floor just to make it so we can open. So at the end of the day, we're kind of asking that this be lifted or put on a separate permit, just so we can open. If we miss the winter season, we could probably close the bar at that point, and I can't let that happen.
So there's two portions of that. So part of it is that we still don't have your letter from John Broker Campbell, and that regards the required information that the planning department, I know you've talked with, and potentially that I know the Mill HOA might be handling part of that. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And so, in order for us to issue any permit, we need a letter from John Broker Campbell, and the mill would have to come forth and basically prove that they are going to be owning that portion.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Of the rebuild?
Yep, because
Yeah, okay.
as the documents that you had, you were substantially damaged, correct? If we look back at when they came through, when the town had our assessor come through, is that then in your part of your stormwater or your permit is that you're going to need a letter from John Broker Campbell. It's basically the same things that we've said every meeting. To talk with them, and I know you've been in communication with the planning department and figure out who's going to, if it's either you who's going to provide that information or if it's the Mill HOA.
Right.
And so that is in regards to your permit, that is a requirement no matter what.
Okay. I believe we're under the 50%
So
for
based off of
damage.
the conversations that were passed along, if it's true that the Mill HOA is going to take ownership of those, then that may change things. But we need proof of that, and the burden of proof is on you and the mill, if that's how they choose to pursue.
Okay.
Secondary, the noise and the soundproofing is that one thing that is a concern in any permit that is issued, no matter at what level of the town or state, is the effect on the area. It was a direct abutters that did bring up a legitimate concern with provided information on the record, video, evidence, and a sound study. Now, being that a direct abutters do have a direct, what I would believe, concern that would make sense based off the evidence that was provided, and no contradictory evidence was provided, that is something we have to consider. And under the village regulations, there are some noise levels that are deemed acceptable, potentially acceptable, and always acceptable. Are you familiar with those?
Taking a good look through that, I'm not familiar.
So under section 550 performance standards, 550.1 regards the noise, and then under that it lists unacceptable, discretionary, potentially, or normally unacceptable, and then discretionarily normally acceptable. And those has some limits.
Are there decibel numbers there, or is it more interpretation?
A note is, it goes through a level of 80, 75, 65, and below 65. So those, it sort of leaves us with our hands tied based off the abutters that brought forth the concern. And as you just said on the record, you believe it is also a concern. And I appreciate what you've done in moving forward to try to limit that concern. I would like you to come up with a plan. It sounds like you're working on a plan that you can propose to me that this is how we're going to make everyone happy. And it sounds like you're working towards that, correct?
Yeah. Mhm.
And that's really what we want. The board does not want to issue some potential permit that lists some arbitrary number that, you have to then comply with. If you can agree with your neighbors to appease their concerns and that they can submit that on the record that they've acceptable of that, they'll be all happy. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So if we're able to do that, we can get it lifted off the permit? Or,
It would still be part of the permit. The permit is not your permit, it is the permit of the area where you are. It is the unit's permit. It is tied directly to your parcel.
which will affect the CO?
Correct. Everything that's in part of your permit. So like your current conditional use permit, that the bar is under, was issued probably 10 years ago or more when it was a previous bar, if I'm correct.
5 spots?
Because that permit doesn't expire if you sold the business. That permit would still be valid. So all permits are issued with the forlorn look that that business or home may be passed on.
Okay.
Any questions that I can answer for you?
No.
Questions from the board?
I don't have anybody, but is anybody on the Zoom interested? I don't know
I think there's
any-
just Ula.
Okay, I didn't know who was there, I didn't know. I don't know the names, I just wondered.
Do you think that you will have answers for us by next month? I know the cutoff for next month, that the mill is not on that cutoff.
Right. Just where they're at with the getting insurance quotes and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, that's understood. We'll have a letter by then from John Broker.
Okay.
with The rest of the information for the soundproofing. We have
Okay.
a meeting this week with the engineer that
Okay.
hopefully will give us our final solution.
Okay.
But, attaching this to our permit is likely going to kill this business.
Unfortunately, I don't make the rules. That is not a choice that I've been given, or is the job of this board. I only interpret the rules, and I cannot show favoritism to one or anyone else.
Sure.
And it is with a sad heart that I have to do that.
Understood.
Anything else?
Nope.
I make a motion that we recess Del Tufo Real Estate 80 Brew until the December meeting.
I'll second.
Go ahead, Doug. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed?
I'm sorry, I was part of the ayes, I
Oh,
apologize.
okay.
Aye.
Okay. Next on our agenda, we are going to open a recess public hearing for Eric Alden. I see you're here. Is anyone else going to speak, or just you?
No one's speaking for me, sorry.
Okay,
Just-
and just to confirm, you have been sworn in at a previous hearing?
I have.
To speak for yourself?
I have, yes.
Okay, tell us an update on your project.
Through many discussions with the zoning office, I think we've come to an understanding on how best to move forward. I believe I still need to receive the letter from John Broker Campbell to meet that agreement. I don't have that letter as of tonight, so
Okay.
we'll probably have to recess until next month.
Okay, sounds good. I
Thank you.
appreciate the forthward
Thank you.
work. I make a motion that we recess the public hearing for Eric Alden until the December meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? And that's December. Okay. Next on the agenda, we're going to open the recess public hearing for 31 Route 103 LLC, aka Mr. Darcy's. Is there someone here to speak on behalf of the applicant tonight?
Yes, Elizabeth Calabrese, I'm the
Were-
architect.
Were you sworn in at one of the previous hearings?
I was.
Okay, Is there anyone else that was here to speak about this hearing tonight? Okay. Tell us an update on your project.
Well, I seem to be confused about exactly what you guys need for us to go forward. I know that Troy has talked to Jared, and he's talked to Rose, and there was a base flood elevation that needed to be put onto the drawings.
Yep.
So if you could just tell me what I need, and I'll get it, but I'm kind of in the dark.
Do you have the list for the John Broker Campbell letter?
Up here right now.
Okay.
I didn't bring it with me. So, everybody in a floodplain needs to get reviewed by John Broker Campbell.
Right.
And he's looking for compliance with Article 6, meaning proper building materials and building methods such as smart vents to let floodwaters flow underneath structures unimpeded. So improvements like that. He's also looking to get estimates of potential costs or receipts of costs that have already been incurred. He weighs all that information against the assessed value of the building by 50%. And if all those costs exceed 50% of the assessed value, then it must comply further with such things as elevation above BFE, or base flood elevation.
Wait, say that last sentence one more time.
So, if you are considered substantially damaged, then the structure basically would have to get raised above base flood elevation. If you're not considered substantially damaged, any kind of improvements or development has to be above that base flood elevation.
So we did find we'll call it the sheet that he did give us from Alan. So they also want, which I can pass over to you.
That would be great.
But I'll read it off just for the record. Provide engineering report, site plan showing base flood elevation, first floor elevation, location and elevations of electrical and mechanical, substantiate compliance with Ludlow zoning and flood hazard regulation, Article 6, floodplain management ordinance, amount of damage incurred, replacement cost receipts, improvement cost receipts or estimates from 2 or more official sources, labor cost receipts or estimates from 2 or more Vermont sources. Any engineered plans need to be, I know you're a stampable engineer.
Well, architect. We do have an engineer, but he's not a civil, he's a structural. So we've got the structural engineering done, we've got the architecture done.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think it was, based on,
So the originally his building was deemed substantially damaged. And I believe, if I'm correct, that it is now deemed not substantially damaged.
Yes.
And so that changes certain things for them.
right.
But they're still going to need a letter from John Broker Campbell. The other thing, just to put on the record for this evening, is he is currently under violation given forth by the planning department. I know he is working toward rectifying those situations, but no permit will be issued or considered additionally until those are rectified and proof is provided on the record.
And what violations are those?
1 second, I can provide you the letter. How's that sound?
Okay, that would be
Yeah.
great, because I'm kind of caught in the
Yep,
middle
no, that's
here, and
okay.
I'm just trying
Yeah.
to get things.
Yep, so it was,
whatever
all
I
those
can
things
do.
were brought forth at the public hearing at the Development Review Board.
At the last public hearing.
Don't believe it was the last one.
Yeah, the one
I think it was the
before-
previous one before that.
December.
And,
Okay.
yeah, and so that he was then issued a letter of violation by the town. And I believe he is in process of trying to rectify those.
Right.
But
okay.
in good faith, we can't issue permits on a building that's not in compliance.
Right, no, that's fine. I'm just trying to figure out what my list is, so I can do what I can do. I can't do everything. Anyway, all right, well, that's good. So we'll work on that.
Yep, so further recommendation is to talk with Rose and Jared in the zoning and planning department. They are your go-to day-to-day operations of if you have questions on what documents you need or how to acquire the said required letters. And
Yeah, I guess I wasn't for some reason, I didn't understand that I needed this initially. There was a paper, I think, that Rose had given Troy, but anyway, I just thought I had to stamp plans, just the architecture plans,
Yep.
not realizing. But anyway, we will work on this,
Yeah.
so if you could put us on for December, I hope we'll have it.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, and if I could get a copy of,
Yep, we can,
Whatever
we'll make sure you
letters, or
get a
I can-
copy of this and a copy of the violation letter.
okay, I can come by your office tomorrow.
Anytime, yep.
Okay,
during
thank you
business
so
hours.
much.
I make a mo...
I'm sorry,
Some other questions?
Ms. Calabrese, part of this is also the deck that Troy wants to build at that property. I believe when we first saw the plans of September 1st, 2023, there was some concern about two ways of egress from the second level of the deck.
It's not more than 50 people, so one means of egress is allowed
Okay,
for that number. If we went any higher than
Right.
that, so that's why we actually said 50 people, and we base the square footage on 15 square feet per person.
I see that here, yep.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that was intentional, because we would need a second means of egress.
Yeah,
if
I know
there
that was
more.
a concern of the board, and we were going to look into that, and yes, based on the fire codes, 50 people, that would be okay, I guess. So,
Yes.
okay.
And one more thing, good thing to bring up, since we got a list of you to work on, is an updated parking plan.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah, due to the things that were brought forth up in, would have been the, I believe, the September meeting, discussion of how many vehicles with the expansion from the deck, and the site visit, it didn't seem that there was going to be enough parking as is, based off the concerns of the abutters that were brought forth.
And if it's possible, I know you do that, but if we can have the plot, to plot them out, because some of the parking was on a different landowner's property.
Yep.
So I just wanted to see it on a piece of paper with
Yep.
the boundaries of that property.
Okay, and in terms of the number of parking that would be required for him to go with the 50 extra?
That's not a number I know off the top of my head. Jared
Okay.
might.
Yeah, I know for residents, it's not for commercial, though, so it could be 1 or 2 or 1.5, something like that, so.
Okay, but that would
Rose
be-
would know that one, or I
Yeah,
could take
there's
10 minutes
a
and
number,
look through
there
the
is a
book.
number, I just do not know it off
Okay,
the top
in
of my
the-
head.
It's on the
Yeah, we
department
have it
also.
in the book.
Okay,
just not-
all right, we'll check on that. Because I know he had already, during COVID, he had increased 50 for that outdoor patio area that's under cover right now. But
Okay.
we're removing that and putting those people on the deck, so we were just increasing by 50, not 100, from the top, the upper and the
Yeah,
lower
you're
deck.
just adding 50 people, but that is a
Right.
substantial number of cars.
Yes,
So,
okay.
anything else that, from the board, or that you have questions for us?
This says two-story. Are you building 2 porches or just one?
Well, it's 2 porches. One is just, currently, they have seating out in the parking lot, just on the ground, and that's less than ideal. So the thought was we could take the seating that's down in the parking lot under that overhang and put it on the first floor of this structure, and then have the second floor as well. So it's like a stacked deck.
Right, okay.
And just to get people out of the parking lot, that
Thank you.
wasn't ideal.
Okay, so I have the
Oh,
regs here.
perfect.
So for a restaurant, it's 1 parking space for every 150 square feet of seating area.
For 150 square feet?
That would include outside also,
That
outside
would
seating.
if that's being
If
deemed
it's a seating area, yeah.
and that
So
would
making sure we know
classify.
that, just on the
Yep.
paper.
So that would include any and all seating areas, which makes sure those are on your site plans with parking plans.
Okay. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else from the board on that one? Okay, I make a motion that we recess 31 Route 103 LLC, AKA Mr. Darcy's, until December.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, that one is
Thank you.
closed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next on our list was the minutes for October 23. Due to no documents being submitted by any applicants tonight, there was no packets sent out, just the emailed copy, and I would like to move those October minutes till next month so we can take a look at the printed copy. It's a little easier to read and mark up. Anyone have any problems with that?
I like it.
No.
Okay, we'll do that.
I will second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And other business?
No, there's nobody in the cyber world that's here to talk, right?
Nope, he's got George Abraham. I don't think he had anything. Okay. If no other business, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. We're out of here.
This may be one of your
Thank you very
shortest-
much, folks.
shortest